Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome for joining this webinar on Single Touch Payroll and IPA Books Plus. My name's John Gajewski, and I'm the Customer Success Manager here at IPA Books Plus. And today I'll take you through the main points of the STP process with IPA Books Plus. Before we get started, I'll just do some housekeeping. If you want to ensure your audio is working properly, just click on the sound check button in the panel on the right-hand side. For this webinar, your microphone has been muted. We will be taking questions throughout the webinar, but please do so on our second site, www.slido.com, and enter the event code IPA. We'll endeavour to answer all questions at the end of the presentation. If you see a question you want to ask already being asked, just like it and we'll attend to the more popular ones first. If you want to hide the panel on the right-hand side, just click on the orange arrow and it'll shrink it to one slim panel and give you a full view of your screen. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on the IPA YouTube channel later today or perhaps tomorrow. Okay, as we all know, STP is for all businesses as of the 1st of July this year. Most businesses with 20 or more have been using it since the 1st of July 2018, and all business under 20 employees start this year. What we've created with IPA Books Plus and Reckon is a product called GovConnect STP, and this will link into all the products of Reckon and IPA Books Plus into one program to communicate with the ATO. The great advantage this provides is that this is a program that does allow you to view the data before you actually send it to the ATO. Also, the STP portal is a free program, and the Books Plus pricing does allow for unlimited employees, so no hidden costs with that one. So today we'll be looking at signing up for GovConnect STP and setting up your multi-factor authentication, how to share your STP account with other users, where to find your software ID, key information to prepare your book, and then look at some common troubleshooting messages and how to fix them. And then just finish off with highlighting STP resources available to you. The IPA Reckon STP process can be actually broken down to just 5 steps. The first step, of course, is to create the GovConnect STP account. The second, that will also entail doing setting up the authentication for users. After that, we'll need to enable STP in your book and make some minor configurations. These 2 steps are sort of like an overhead thing. You only really need to do them once, or when major changes happening, like new employees come on board. But generally, it is a one-off step. Then you complete your pay run in the normal manner. There is absolutely no change to the way people process their pays in Books Plus. It's after the pay run that you get the unique steps. There's a step there to create the STP export, and then to open up GovConnect STP, view that data and submit to the ATO. And as you'll see, those last 2 steps are really just a matter of a couple of clicks. So on an ongoing pay-by-pay basis, the load on you of the STP step is actually very small. So let's have a look at creating a GovConnect STP account. Firstly, every user on the Books Plus system does need a portal ID. So if you just sign into portal.ipabooksplus.com and just click on register for free to create your a free ID. You can be signing in with your existing Google accounts or your Microsoft accounts, or just create a unique one with using your email address. Then you can come back, sign in here, and you'll come into the IPA Books Plus portal, as you do at the moment for those who've become partners and set up clients, and you will see tiles for existing books, and if you haven't started anything yet, there'll be an invitation to a 30-day trial. What you'll see on the left-hand side, the navigator bar, you can see under available products is Reckon Gov Connect. And to set that up for yourself, just click on Add Products in the top right and click on Reckon Gov Connect. Setting this up, of course, is for free. And the first step it'll push you through is to set up multi-factor authentication. Unfortunately, ATO has mandated that every user to the system must be independently authenticated before using it. So here you have a number of options on how to authenticate. Since last week, we introduced the ability to authenticate via SMS code, and that will be the option that will be presented to you straight away on Books Plus. So if you want to use this SMS code option, just go ahead and fill out the details. Firstly, just enter in your mobile phone number, click on send code to get your code, and then enter it here in the final step. And then just click on save to create it. If you prefer the smartphone Google Authenticator, then just click on I want to use Google Authenticator instead, and that'll send you through to the get you started on the authenticator process. Firstly, with the authenticator, you will need to download the app from the Apple Store or Google Play. Then you can scan this QR code that's presented to you on your screen when you start off Google Authenticator, and enter the code that appears on your smartphone, and then just click verify. The code will be sent to your mobile phone, and just enter that in. The third option you get is a PC option. If you don't want to use a smartphone or the SMS options, this option is a extension in the Chrome web browser. So open up your Chrome browser, go to the Chrome Web Store and search the authenticator and install it. One thing you should note is that you cannot have an authenticator on both a PC and a smartphone. It is one or the other. So make your selection and stay with that method. To make it work, what you'll need to do after downloading it, you'll see this little authenticator signal, which is similar to the QR code, to activate. So just click on that, and then log into IPA Books. Go back to the IPA Books Plus portal and GovConnect, and when prompted to set up the MFA, just click on the extension again and enter the code that's generated for you. So just to sum up that authentication, the MFA is at the user level, and it's there for security purposes, so you shouldn't share your MFA code with anyone. If you have other people doing parts of the process for you, each of them need to have a Books Plus ID and be authenticated. You can't use MFA on both a PC and a smartphone. It's one or the other. And if you come to a point where you need to delete your authenticator app from your smartphone, don't do that until you've revoked the connection between authentication and your STP account with us. So once your authentication done, you'll be invited to get started to create the STP connection. So just click on Get Started. You'll be presented with a form for some company information, the ABN, the branch number if one is relevant, and the legal company name. Now, one thing that needs to be important here is you are dealing with the ATO and they're going to be cross-checking a number of things. So they'll be looking for the information to come across in the format and the style that they're after. Legal names of companies and people is very important. So with a company name, we suggest that you actually go to the ABN register, look up the ABN number and copy the name of the company as it appears on the register and drop it into the field here. We also suggest you do that when inside your Books Plus, in your book settings where you're putting in the legal company name, do the same there so that the information we have in your book in STP is the same as the ABN register and what the ATO is using. You'll be asked to select your product. So Reckon 1 is the product we select here. And if you're using the other products of the Reckon suite, you can link to all of them if you wish. So STP is not limited to just the one product. You can run multiple Reckon products through the one STP account. And when you've done that, you'll be created that a new homepage will appear for STP. And assuming you've picked up just the one for the Books Plus, you'll see the one tile on the screen in front of you. And we're using Reckon 1 and Books Plus synonymously here in STP. Once this is created, you can just click on the, you can share your STP account with another person. Say, for instance, this will probably happen in many instances where a client will set this up and leave it to the accountant or the bookkeeper to actually do the processing for them. So the client can share his STP connection to the accountant or bookkeeper for them to use. So you just click on the three little dots on the book template and on the account template and select Share with User. And just enter the email ID that they use to log onto the Reckon portal or username if they have one, and click Save. And then you'll see that additional user come up in this list of users to the portal. When you do that, you won't see a tile for the shared account on your home page. You will see it here in the Shared with Me section. So click on that to see the STP accounts that your clients have shared to you. Okay, and now you'll need to also find the software ID for this program. Now, the software ID is with the GovConnect STP, not with any of the accounting software you may be using. So the way to get that there is just click on this Company and Advisor Info button in the top right corner of the STP account, and you will see this company window. You can see the company name and ABN number there. And it's down here that you have the software ID. This is a number that needs to be registered by the owner of the account onto their AUSKey to let the ATO know that this software ID relates to their account. This is, you're probably using a software ID with some of your software for BAS submissions. That's actually coming from the accounting package. Do be aware that is not the software ID you'll be using here with GovConnect STP. You must take this one that's generated by GovConnect STP. Your clients might want to nominate you as an advisor, so they just click on this advisor button and fill out the details there to make you an advisor and authority to process their STP account. Okay, so that completes the process of actually setting up your STP account. The next step we need to do is go into IPA Books Plus and configure it for STP. This process is fairly simple. Firstly, you do need to have a legal name and ABN listed in on the book settings, which you'll get in from the account button, selecting settings. This is a name we suggest you copy in from the ABN register, so you have the name consistently with STP account and with the ATO records. The second thing to look at is employees. Firstly, the email field. They don't have to have an email in there. They don't have. They can be blank. But if you are using an email in there, make sure it is a valid email, because if it is not a valid email, that will force that will allow the STP submission to fail. Also, go into the employment field and make sure there is a employee number added. For small businesses, it might sound a bit odd to have a number when there's only 1 or 2 employees, but again, it's something that's been mandated by the ATO for the STP process. So please just start creating a number sequence. And finally, probably you may have already attended to this, but since 1st of July 2018, the way the allowances, the way they're treated at the ATO has changed a little bit. So just make sure that this file is consistent with the new categories that started on the 1st of July 2018. And that's about all you need. That's all you need to do in Books Plus to ensure that it is properly configured to work properly in STP. So now you can go ahead and do your normal pay run, and when that's complete, you can then do the additional steps for the for STP. Now, IPA Books Plus is fully integrated with the STP process, and what that means is that there's a direct connectivity between STP and Reckon One and Books Plus, so that when you prepare the lodgement in Books Plus, it will push directly into the GovConnect software. So, and it's in GovConnect that you then you can review the data and then submit it. So, creating the single touch payroll export. After you complete your pay run, just come into your payroll module and select the option here, single touch payroll. You'll see previously sent ones and the latest one, which will be in draft mode. So click on that to open it, and you'll see the details of this pay. This pay that I'm using has only got 1 employee on it, so there's only 1 line, but you'll see one for every employee in that pay run. And then it's just a matter of clicking on Send to GovConnect STP to make that information available in that program. Do have a look. There is a drop-down arrow there, and you can see some other options there. Send full file replacement, send update, and mark as sent. So what do these mean? Well, STP does use these things called event types. Now, the program is configured to automatically process what's called the pay event, which is the normal pay run and its reporting. So to do that, you just click on Send to GovConnect STP. At other times, you may be putting in some other categories of information. For instance, the full file replacement is the option you'll pick when you're making a correction to a previous submission. The update event will be something you'll need to use when you're putting in some new information, or to say changing some information for an existing employee. And the final pay event is something you'll regularly use when you terminate employees, and to indicate to the ATO that you will no longer be paying that employee. It's also something you do on your last pay run, when all your last pay run of the financial year. When you've finalised all your payroll for that year, you do need to send that final pay run, which would normally be sent as a pay event, as a final pay event. Okay, so when you do click on Send to GovConnect STP, you'll get a you'll get a success message and an offer to just launch GovConnect STP straight away. So yeah, so that completes all the actions you need to do inside the Books Plus software, and by clicking on Launch GovConnect STP, you'll start the final process, and GovConnect will launch for you. Now, the first step, of course, is this authentication. So go through the authentication process, and what you'll then end up with is the GovConnect STP homepage, and what you'll see in the table below is your latest pay information. Notice that the status there is draft, to indicate that it hasn't been processed yet. So at this stage, what you can do is, if you're all happy with it, just click on Submit to set that information through to the ATO, and you're finished with STP for this pay run. Alternatively, you may want to actually examine the details and see what's actually being sent. So just click on the details button, and what you'll see are all the employees that were in your pay run. Again, this one's only got one employee, so we're only seeing one there. Now, again, note these figures, they are year-to-date figures. They're not the actual figures for this particular pay, but the beginning of the financial year, including this pay. If you want to see a bit more detail on this employee, you can just click on Detail again, and you'll see another screen with the information being sent to the ATO for this employee, both ID information and information on the pays. So whenever you're ready and happy with what you've got there, it's just a matter of clicking Submit All to send the information to the ATO. Now, when you do, the first step they'll ask you to do is go through your digital signing, and then when it's submitted, you'll get this status message appearing. It says pending. What that actually means is, look, the ATO has received your submission. It is now putting it through its checking process, and when it passes that check process, it'll send another signal back down to GovConnect STP and change that status to accepted and submitted. So let that go for an hour or so, and come back to it and see that you've got the submitted message in your status column. Sometimes if there are heavy loads or some problems with the web servers with the ATO, it may take longer. Shouldn't take any more than a day. And certainly if you're still a day later having a status of pending, do contact the ATO to see what's the matter with that. So that's it. That completes the entire STP process, from the fairly heavy overhead of setting STP up and configuring your book, and through to those few extra steps that you do after your normal payroll after your normal pay run, to create that STP process and to send it off to the ATO. If you follow the steps here outlined here, you should have very little, probably have a few difficulties, but from time to time you may encounter some sort of errors, and here are some of the more common ones. Even in the creation of your STP account, you might get a message saying unable to create subscription with STP. This is likely to happen when one of two things happen. Firstly, someone your ABN has already been registered with the Reckon GovConnect for STP. You might have been playing around with yourself and accidentally gone through the process and not been aware, or someone else in the office has done it, or maybe your client has already done it and hasn't told you, that sort of thing. The other, so the fix there is to just get that person either accept it or get that person to revoke their connection there so you can create one. More commonly, it's usually because the name is incomplete in the Reckon portal. And to change that, all you need to do is just go into the IPA Books Plus portal and just click on the profile icon up here, this little human up there. And you'll see the basic profile information here. So just click on edit. So you'll be able to edit the My Details area. Another message might come up saying you're trying to put your your MFA code in and you get the error, please type correct code, and you are. Now, this is likely to happen if your Authenticator app is not in, your Authenticator app's timing is not in sync with Google timing. It only takes to be out a second for it not to be able to work. So the solution here is to reset your timing to correspond to sync with Google timing. So on an Android, just launch your Authenticator app and then go to the menu, settings, and select the option time correct for codes and click on that. With an Apple device, you'll need to reset on the device's timing setting, which you can get through by going to General Settings and then just taking time and date and selecting your time zone again. Another one might be, one you'll get is invalid company information provided. What to do there is just to go back into your book and make sure you've got the correct legal name in there, and try again. Make sure you also have the correct address as it appears on the ABN register. Another message might be this strange one: the request ID is valid, but the pull request is yet to be queued. This one's fairly a benign one because it's indicating that there is that the ATO servers are experiencing extended processing times. It's essentially a timeout error. It's still waiting in queue, so don't be too concerned with it just now. Just come back and check later to see that your status has been updated. Okay, so they're about the more common messages you'd like to come across. As for more resources to help you out, a very good one is help.ipabooksplus.com. It's fairly got an extensive section there on setting up GovConnect STP and going through the Google Authenticator process. There's heaps of other information there for the product itself, so just drill down to the various sections and down to the bits that you require. Also, as partners, you have access to the we've also got a special Reckon as a special page for a single touch payroll and various resources there, so you're quite welcome to go in there and try them out. There are FAQs there, recorded webinars like this one, and other guides. A good place to start for more information is when you're in your Books Plus, here in the top right, that question mark, that will open up the support page, and you've got easy links to various places. IPA Books Plus Training Academy is a source that has a lot of information for IPA Books Plus partners. It's got certificate guides, it's got manuals, how-to videos. Very, very helpful for you. Another good one, as well as for your clients, is the how-to tutorial videos on the IPA YouTube channel. So go through to those and there. If you need further help, you can always contact support. Just click on contact us for some detail, for the phone details, which are also available on the IPA website. Yeah, and the YouTube channel, you can go into the various playlists. There is one there for Books Plus, and check out this the recording of this webinar and others. Okay, so that completes the presentation for today. Thank you for taking the time out to walk through these. What I'll do now is I'll have a look at some of the questions that have been asked, and we'll try to get some questions, answer some of the questions that have been asked there. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. How will we lodge for an entity that does not have a payroll system where we calculate wages in June to offset any Division 7A issues? We're not in a position to ask that sort of question. I guess that this is a situation where you're doing wages once a year, and it's probably being done after the June date. I don't know the answer to that. I have heard that mentioned several times, and I haven't heard an answer on that one. And I think the people to ask that question will be to the ATO. At this stage, the ATO is fairly lenient about reporting matters. Without any other information, I would say when the information is available, contact the ATO and follow their directions. Or when the client does not wish to upgrade to a software package, as they will be winding down in the next few years. The answer there is the STP is now being mandated for all payroll. So if you're paying people, you need to be reporting to STP, not unless your client qualifies for some of the exemptions that are around there. So that's something for you to discuss with the ATO to work out whether they qualify for an exemption, but otherwise they will need to do it through a software package. Can we enter directly to the tax agent portal for them? And how often does this need to be done? No, the whole process of STP, the whole idea of STP is that people report pays when they're done. Now, at the moment, the qualification is that on the day that the pays are done, they should be submitted. Now, I know that beginning this year, there is some leniency that the ATO is allowing people up to the end of September to make their first STP submission for the financial year 1920. But after that, it should be done on the exact day that the pay is processed. How that ties in with some other features where the client isn't on a computer system and relies on his accountant and bookkeeper to process, and that you are not aware of the pay event until some weeks later. Again, I haven't heard an answer on that one. In the first year or year or two, there may be some leniency about reporting that, but really that's again a question that we are waiting for from the ATO to qualify. Next one was also, how can we submit for clients who cannot access a cloud-based system as they are in the internet dead spot or so prefer to use desktop software? Where they're in that internet dead spot, I think that might be one of the reasons for qualifying for the various extensions to using STP. So do check that off with the do check that off with the ATO. But no, I don't have a firm answer on that one under those sort of conditions. Okay. Just try to highlight some other aspects. do check off with the ATO on these various exemptions that are being offered. It's, from what I understand, it's a fairly tight conditions to be met, but people who aren't on and the people most likely to qualify for those exemptions are people like in they're not don't have access to the internet, they're closely held companies. But we're not in a position to comment too much on that. So all I can do is encourage you to check that off with the ATO or with your own industry bodies and follow their directions. Well, if we've got no more questions coming in, we'll wrap it up there. Please, if you do have any further questions of a procedural nature, please don't hesitate to call us or send us an email. You can get to our email fairly easily by the question mark icon inside Books Plus to get to the support page and click on the send an email. We'll be happy to help out. I've got another question come in: how to fix an error in the pay run? Is this assuming that I assume that you pick up the error after you've processed the pay, you've made the payment to the employee and sent the information on to the ATO. That's where the full file replacement option comes in. If you've found an error, you'll need to go back into the software and correct that error in that pay run and create an STP file for just that employee or employees who've had the error in them and submit it as a full file replacement, and that will change the details for if that is and the ATO will pick up on that and change the details in that previously submitted record. If the error in submitting from the ATO side, if there's the only error, that the two sorts of errors that are likely to occur is one, it fails to submit, so you don't actually get the ATO accepting your file, and in that case the fix is to resubmit again until you finally get that submitted status. The second thing is that the ATO does do a check on the file before it officially accepts it. So if it does find something that's not quite right there, it won't accept it, and another message will appear back in the STP Gov Connect telling you to check some sort of detail. And again, the error there, the fix there will be to go back into the software, find the error, make the change, and create a new file, a whole new normal pay event file, and submit that to the ATO. Next question comes up. If I missed one pay run and lodged a subsequent event, do I need to lodge the old one? No, you don't, because what you're submitting are year-to-date figures. So if you miss one pay and then submit the next one, that next one will have included in its year-to-date figures the previous pay. So there is no need to submit the previous one. How the ATO will respond to that, what action it'll take on that, again, I don't know. The word we're getting from the ATO is that in this first year or two, they're being fairly lenient about things until people settle into the process. Has the legislation for STP for 5 or less employees been passed? Yes, it was. I think it was done early, about the middle of February. What has happened substantially after that, and you will need to check off exactly the full details and how to work out who it applies to, is a number of groups can get an extension to using it, and there are certain ways that they must do. So you'll need to check that off with the ATO and then find out whether any of your clients meet their conditions. Okay, yeah, with the, there are still lots of questions floating around and about the STP when people come down to the fine detail, and all I can suggest is continue checking with the ATO and the information bulletins they put out, and talking to your industry bodies so that you can be informed on that. But most of that stuff is really outside our scope to be able to properly direct you on. Okay, another question. For casual employees, if they left or for a temporary period and may return back, do I need to mark them as final pay? Yeah, that's, I don't actually know the answer to that one, because the nature of the casuals is they are casual, so they're not, and if they are casual, they're not, they usually follow a different tax regime to normal part-time and full-time employees. No, that's something we'll have to check up and get back to you what the answer is. My first impression is that the casual status means that these are people who are working sometimes and not working others. They're working for you and for others, and they're moving around. So the very nature of the casual is that it is off and on and temporary, and marking them as a final pay event doesn't seem to make sense. But that's something we'll have to check out and get back to you on that one. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, we'll wrap it up here. And thank you for taking the time out to listen to this process. The best way to learn it is to do it. You can set up the account today, and the only way you can practice with it is by creating these STP files for export and viewing them inside Reckon Gov Connect. Just don't submit them to the ATO. So you can, at least you can get the feel for the system up to that point before submitting, and then when the time comes to make your first submission, hopefully with high probability you will go through without any difficulty. Thank you very much for your attention, and good luck with this process.